What is identity? Well, simply put, identity just means who we are. It's what makes you, well, you. In one simple word, it carries a lot of meaning. When we think of who we are, chances are we think about it a lot of different ways. Maybe for you, who you are is who you want to be. You like the things that you like. Or maybe for you, who you are is more than who others expect you to be. For as long as you can remember, people have told you who they want you to be. Maybe identity for you is all about who you have to be. The circumstances in your life have put you in a position to play a certain role or be a certain person, whether you like it or not. Or maybe your identity is more about who you're not. You think about who you are, and the first thing that comes to mind is this: I'm not sure I'm smart enough. I'm not sure I'm athletic enough. I'm not sure I'm outgoing enough. This might be so real for you right now that you would answer the question, who am I? By saying, I'm not enough. Deep down, the real question you're asking is, am I enough? This big question of identity is really complicated. And can I let you in on a little secret? It's one even adults find themselves asking sometimes. We're all looking to understand who we really are. And when we're not sure how to answer that big question, we start looking in all kinds of places to figure it out. Maybe the answer is in our performance, appearance, or even our relationships. Whatever it is that you're looking for help in answering this big question about who you are, the problem is that the answers never seem to stick. None of it really seems quite right. And after all that, still looking for an answer, we're left with wondering, who am I, really? But our biggest question, like this one, needs to be answered. So here's the good news. I've got an answer to this big question that I think is gonna help us all out a little. And the answer comes from a real story that happened to a real kid a long time ago. This kid's story is written down by a guy named John who followed Jesus during his life and ministry on earth. Now, I don't want to totally spoil the story for you, but before I go into it, I want to give you a few important details. Besides Jesus, of course, the most important person in the story is the kid. Now, we don't know if it was a boy or a girl. We don't know where they came from or their circumstances. We don't know about their family, their hobbies, or even if they believed in or knew about Jesus before this moment. But what we do know is that the encounter this kid had with Jesus changed his life completely. So let's take a look at what happened. Check this out. So basically, there was Jesus standing in front of this crowd of people who all needed to eat. And who did Jesus choose to help make that happen? He chose this kid. It's important to know that back then, kids had very little value in this culture. They were treated more like property that belonged to their families rather than humans with anything to offer. Can you imagine how this kid must have felt because of that? Why is this important? Well, because what was true back then in this story is still true for us today. Jesus knows who we are, and more importantly, Jesus knows who he is. Our biggest questions deserve better answers. And just like this kid, we're made in the image of God. And that's the most important answer to our biggest question about who we are. It's the most important thing about our identity. It's enough for us to know just how much Jesus knows and cares about each and every one of us. And because Jesus is who he is, we can trust that Jesus can do anything with anyone. Jesus isn't limited by what this kid had or didn't have to offer. And the same is true for us. Jesus makes what we have enough. He makes certain that we know we are enough. Like we said, our biggest questions need better answers. So the next time you have a big question about who you are, remember this: you don't have to prove that you're enough. We don't have to look any further than Jesus to find the answers to our big questions about identity. When we're not sure about who we are, we can hold on to the truth that you don't have to prove that you're enough. Jesus already thinks you are enough. Are there areas of your life where you feel like you're not enough right now? Places where you're struggling to be confident and comfortable with who you are? Identify one area of your life where you feel like you're not enough. If you're not sure, think about these questions. What worries you? What do you feel insecure about? What questions make you nervous? When do you find yourself making excuses for not measuring up? The answers to those questions might help you realize where you're struggling with a big question of identity in your life right now. When you think about how you respond when you feel that way, do you try to hide who you are or how you feel? Do you try to cover it up by pretending you're something you're not? Do you change something about yourself to feel more like who others want you to be? Instead of trying to prove that we have what it takes or hide so nobody notices that we're not who we want to be, or even pretend we're something that we're not, we can remember this one thing, that the only answer that matters about who we are is the one that Jesus gives us, and that's the one that says that we are enough. This week, I want you to simply commit to doing one thing to help you remember who you really are. Maybe it's writing down the truth that you don't have to prove you're enough. Maybe it's asking your small group leader to remind you. Maybe it's memorizing a verse that helps you know that this is true. In fact, let me give you one to start. Whatever it is for you, I want you to look for answers to your big questions about identity in places that will remind you of what's true. You don't have to prove that you're enough. One way you can start to believe this truth is by spending time with others who love Jesus and love you. That's where small group comes in. The people in your small group and your leader are there to help you process your big questions. The truth is, we never were meant to figure out all these questions alone. And as we're all wrestling with the question, who am I? Your small group is a safe place to do that. They can help remind you that you're already enough. So here's a question for you. What's one thing you know is true about who you are?